Just 18 days to go until the first summer transfer window opens, which means it's time for a West Ham transfer rumour show. And I'd love to say I've got my pink book and I'm back in business, but that is not the case. Poundland still does not stock it. I can only assume it's discontinued because there's only blue ones there and they're now £1.50. So it's £1.5 Poundland we've got at the minute. So got the back of a compliment slip. Not quite the same, is it? But does the same job. We've got a list of names. We've got a list of transfer rumours. Not from me. I am merely the messenger. But I will chuck my 10 pence in as and when I can when it comes to some of these links. Anyway, let's dive into, as I always say, the gossip column, the gossip compliment slip. And we're going to kick it off with Manchester City's 22-year-old attacking midfielder, James McAtee. Now, I want to go back to last summer. I really, really wanted him. He was sort of one of my top hopes for the summer because I thought he'd leave Man City. I thought he had a decent season with Sheffield United on loan. He only scored 3 goals, I think, but he looked good. He was playing in a really poor side. However, he looked better than his teammates, as you'd perhaps expect from someone on loan from Manchester City. I liked what I seen, and I thought if you took him out, put him in a better team, which back last summer we were, I thought he'd perform better, you'd get more out of him. But I didn't think he was good enough for Man City. He may go on and become good enough for Man City, but my thought process last summer was he's not good enough yet. He needs to leave Man City, whether it's a permanent transfer or another loan move. Now, fast forward to the middle of May today, I would argue I was right, because he stayed at Man City all season, yet only had 3 Premier League starts. And I would argue that this is one of the easier Man City sides to get into. They've had injuries, they've been out of form individually and as a team. The standards have dropped a little bit, yet he's still not picked up much game time under Pep Guardiola. Obviously, in January, there was a reaction by Manchester City, bringing in 4 players. Marmoush coming in, who is going to directly impact McAtee's game time. Then we fast forward to this summer. It's expecting Man City are going to spend big again, bringing in players like Reinders from AC Milan. So I think it's going to be even tougher for McAtee to get into the team next season. Yet he's struggling to get into it this season. Plus, bear with me, throw Oscar Bob into your thought process as well. Because I think, and I strongly believe, he was ahead of McAtee and Pep Guardiola's thought process in pre-season, picked up a big injury. Now he's only just returned to training. I'd imagine it's unlikely we see him in the next 3 games because we've got the FA Cup final on Saturday. Then they play Bournemouth and Fulham on the last game of the season. Maybe he'll be on the bench or something. But I think next season, I think it's fair to assume if they both stay at Man City, I would expect Bob to pick up more minutes than McAtee. So I think he needs to leave Man City. So it's not surprised to see him being linked with a move away. 25 million is the price tag. However, I'm not sold. Not on him, the player, just on the transfer. I'm unsure West Ham would be the best or the right club for him. And I'm unsure that he would be the best option for what we need this summer. Obviously, I think there's an expectation that Kudus and McAtee leave this summer. So we will need to bring in an attacking midfielder, possibly 2 or 3. I just don't see McAtee fitting what we require. Now, if we were to sign him, I'd get excited. Like I said, I think the talent's there, the potential's there. He could go on and become a top player. I'm just unconvinced that he's the right type of player that we need. I think he's best in the number 10 role. Obviously can play on the right, and that's where I've seen him most for Man City this season, albeit in little minutes. No, we don't really have that role though. That's gone. If we're away from home, we are going to be playing this 3-5-2, which I think we will. Where does he fit in? Now, one of those central midfielders, as we've seen Souček doing, does go advanced, does play attacking midfielder, so that could be McAtee's role. But I just think he's maybe just lacking that physicality required to play in Potter's team. I wouldn't be against it, but he certainly wouldn't be my number 1 choice for bringing in an attacking midfielder. Good player, potentially wrong transfer. Right then, Martin Friendrup, the Genoa midfielder. We discussed him last week, so I'm not going to go into details again. But if you haven't seen the video from last week, go check it out. I'll put it in the description below, because we have a look at his statistics. And like data-wise, he looks brilliant, ball-winning central midfielder. And there's a lot of, between me doing that video and now, I've read a lot of stuff about him, and people are getting excited. However, I am refusing to get my hopes up on this guy. Even if it happens, I'm going to remain with my arms folded, refusing to get excited. Well, actually, I will get excited. I won't get my hopes up. My expectations will not budge from neutral, which I don't have any, because I've never heard of him until 2 weeks ago. And the reason for that is because the same people that are bigging up Friendrop bigged up Carlos Soler. That's not worked out. They bigged up Guido Rodriguez. That's definitely not worked out. They made on that he was this fantastic defensive midfielder and he's going to come in and make a big difference. Now, in terms of his footballing brain and footballing ability, I've got no issue with that. I will agree. He looks like an intelligent player. Looks like a very good technical player. However, not one person mentioned how slow that guy was. He looked like he was paused when the attackers were running past him. I was close to calling him W.H. Smith because of how stationary he was. So I ain't getting my hopes up with Friendrop. But in the interest of the Transfer Rumour Show, we are still being linked with him quite a lot. Now, the important point I should make here is he plays for Genoa. And the rumours in the last couple of days are that Genoa wish to extend Maxwell Cornet's, as we say, injury. They might extend that. They don't want to extend that. They want to extend his loan. Went over there, played 6 games, got 2 goals and an assist, got injured. Hasn't been seen since. So he had an impressive start to life in Italy, but he had a very quick end to life in Italy. But Genoa wished to extend that loan. Putting 2 and 2 together, you do hope that if our interest in Friendrop is genuine, that Cornet could be used as a bargaining chip. And when I say that, I mean, it's not going to drive the price down much. To some extent, if Friendrop was 17 million, this is how bad it is. If Friendrop's 17 million, or 17 million and they take Cornet, I think I'd go for the latter option just to get his wages off the books. How bad's that? And I feel terrible for saying it. I was buzzing when we signed Maxwell Cornet, and that one was on me. No one gave me my opinion on Maxwell Cornet. I had my own. I thought it was a fantastic signing, and it's been a terrible one. Idiot. But if we could get Cornet out the door on a permanent to Genoa, and actually doesn't... I honestly don't even consider him to have much monetary value there for West Ham anymore. I see it as a bad thing because he's on decent wages. So we could get those out the door. Good business as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, this video is sponsored by Surfshark. This isn't a player. There's nobody called Surfshark that we've been linked to. And this video is sponsored by it. Surfshark is a VPN. Now, VPNs add extra layers of security to your devices, but as I keep saying, my favourite thing about it is changing the location of my device. So there's some good stuff coming out on, I always say the internet. I don't on Netflix, on Amazon at the minute, but sometimes they're released earlier in other countries. So if I wanted to watch something that's out in America, but it's not quite out in the UK yet, I can change the location of my phone to America. Netflix thinks I'm in America, and I can watch the American Netflix. It sounds simple. It is simple. It's the easiest thing to do to change the location on your device when you're using Surfshark. Now, I've got an offer for you. 4 months free. You sign up to Surfshark with our link, or go to surfshark.com/HammersChat. The offers automatically apply to your page. You don't need to put codes in anywhere. You go to that link. The offer's already on there. You subscribe to Surfshark, you will get 4 months free. Plus, if you change your mind, within 30 days, you get a full money back. Full money back? That's not right. It's a money back guarantee. You get a full refund. There you go. That's better. And you only need 1 account, unlimited devices on that account as well. So keep your devices safer, but also change your device's location to access content that wouldn't be available to you where you currently are. Anyway, to a transfer rumour in regards to leaving West Ham, Nayef Aguerd, you've all seen over the last 24 hours, Gonzo covered it, so I'm not going to do an entire video about it, because my entire video would be this. Aguerd wants to leave, I'm glad. I want to sell him. I think, hopefully, we can get over 20 million for him. I'd take that. and it gives us, you can't miss what you don't have, right? So Graham Potter's never had Nayef Aguerd, so he can't miss him. He might have been looking forward to working with him going into next season. He might also be looking forward to working with Morten Frendrup going into next season. But his relationship with Aguerd and Frendrup is exactly the same. He's never managed him. So I'm pleased that Aguerd doesn't want to come back, because I don't want him to come back. I know he's had a good season in La Liga, but it doesn't mean that... I don't think he was necessarily suited to the Premier League. I think this style of play didn't help him. But he couldn't win headers, or he wouldn't win headers, regardless of whether you're playing a low block, mid block, or a high block. Your ability to head the ball is going to remain the same no matter where you are on the pitch. And also his commitment, or lack of commitment, to West Ham didn't sit great with me. And I'm very pro play for your country. I'm very pro international football. I think it's the pinnacle of a player's career, or it should be. But there's ways to go about it, and he did not do it the right way, and it rubbed me up the wrong way. So yeah, sell Aguerd, yes please, and hopefully it's something we can get done ASAP. But this is, PSR windows and stuff. We've got to be clever with this type of thing. Right then, on to the players I've never heard of, and I don't know how to pronounce. So let me get my gossip compliment slip here. I'm going to have to be careful with this pronunciation. Raphael Onyedika, 24-year-old defensive midfielder from Club Bruges. Now, I'm going to have a look at his statistics, comparing it to the top 5 leagues, Champions League football as well. And his defensive numbers are really strong, and his passing is really strong as well. I went and watched some clips on the old Y-Scout. Now, for those that don't know, Y-Scout is not the same as watching a YouTube highlights package. That is what I used to call doing a gonzo, because he used to do it. He used to go on YouTube and look for these players. He doesn't have to do that anymore. He can go and watch HD footage of all the clips of all of his actions. So you can go on there, click on Onyedika, and click on tackles, and you'll see all the tackles he's made. That's all you see. HD clips of him, bang, bang, bang. And what we're accessing is the same as what professional football clubs. If you... Maximilian Hans, who's obviously heavily involved in recruitment at West Ham, put up an advert on LinkedIn last week. If you were to read the job spec of the advert, part of the job spec is to be comfortable using Y-Scout and creating playlists on Y-Scout. We're qualified. Me and Gonzo are qualified for that part of the job spec. My point is, West Ham use it. Okay, not a good example. Other better, well-run clubs use Y-Scout. We have access to the same software as professional football clubs. Anyway, I've been looking up Onyedika on Y-Scout. Don't want to be Googling that. Looks good. Moving on to the next one. And this from Onyedika to Ardon. I'm not making these up. I had to Google these. I thought someone was taking the piss, right? Because we've got Raphael Onyedika, Ardon Yashari, and Mario Strokons. I'm not even kidding. So we've got Onyedika, Ardon, and Strokions. Yeah, I thought these were Bart Simpson when he rings up Mo. I thought it was those kind of jokes. Turns out it's not, it's their real names. So I don't know, maybe Bart Simpson has put together our list of players. Anyway, from Onyedika to Ardon Jashari. He's a 22-year-old defensive midfielder from Club Bruges as well. So one's 24-year-olds and one's 22-year-old, both Club Bruges defensive midfielders. His passing looks better than Onyedika's, and his dribbling is really good as well. So I don't know, I'm only assuming that he's perhaps a more ball player of a central midfielder here, but I've never heard of either of these players. So if you're listening thinking, oh my God, he's making a hash of this. If you've heard of these players or you know about them, please let me know in the comments below. Not just for me, but for other subscribers as well who are interested in your Onyedika. We can have a read about your Ardon, so get involved in the comments below. As for Mario Stroikins, 20-year-old Anderlecht attacking midfielder. Now, having a look at his statistics are a little bit different, because with Ardon and Onyedika, I'm comparing them to the top 5 leagues of European football plus the Champions League. And numbers-wise, they're stacking up really well. So they're hitting, the top 80th, 90th percentile for their defensive abilities and stuff. The only thing that makes me a little bit concerned with that data is the team they're playing in the league they're playing in. With Mario, that's not available, so you can only compare him to the other 14, which is the Belgian league, the Danish league, the Europa Conference League. But an attacking midfielder, his dribble statistics are fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And when I went and watched his clips, he looks really lively, really good. His his shot creating action statistics are also really good. Now, that can come from a pass, it can come from a dribble. He could have a shot which leads to another shot, that type of thing. His statistics are really, really good on that as well. I appreciate I'm giving you a very brief summary about these players, but I've only just been researching them for 15, 20 minutes each player, just to have a little bit of a clue as to who they are. Now, moving on to a player I've heard of is De Winter, Genoa's 22-year-old, and centre-back will be linked to him as well, which is almost giving me a little bit of reassurance. I was getting concerned because we're being linked with a lot of midfielders at the minute, which is good news. I like it. But there's a lack of centre-backs and full-backs being linked to West Ham. Now, I appreciate rumours don't necessarily mean that we're not looking at these players. But to go back to last summer, we made 10 permanent transfers. We were linked to every single one of them before we signed them. And yes, there was a lot we didn't sign. But my point is, we'll sometimes get linked to players and not sign them. But we very, very rarely don't get linked to players and then go and sign them. There's some quick ones. We'll get linked to them on the Monday and by the Friday they've actually signed. But the leak still happens, doesn't it? So I'm pleased to see it's been linked to centre-backs because it's one area that I would like to see if it's invested in. But the most unrealistic transfer rumour, perhaps, of today's show is Bisek of Inter Milan. 24-year-old German international. I've watched a bit of Italian football recently, I've had to watch a bit of Inter Milan because them and Napoli are going for the title. Now, when I say I watched a bit of Italian football, 80% of it has been Napoli. Yes, it's because of McTominay and Gilmour. Don't care. Two Scottish lads inside Serie A. McTominay, especially, he's ripping it up. And then we've got Ferguson at Bologna. So I'm tuning in. I'm watching a little bit of it. And I've seen a bit of Inter Milan, not just because of the Champions League, but because they're up against Napoli. I like Bisek from what I've seen from him. He dribbles out from the back really, really well in that back three under Inzaghi. Looks a bit poor in the air defensively and has been out of position in a few games I've watched. But I quite like him. Now, Fabrizio Romano has said that there's a lot of Premier League clubs after him. The reports from Italy suggest they're willing to sell him. They're willing to cash in on him. But it's got to be a massive offer. The price tag being bandied around at the minute is €50 million, which is quite expensive and not a price tag I can see us going to. The reason I feel that this is unrealistic is because we don't have European football. He looks like a top centre-back, 24, really young as well. Like I said, German international too. So you're getting a top quality player here. And I think when we had European football, although we were perhaps not in Champions League, I felt like for most players, not all, but most players, we could compete due to our financial pool. But now we're out of European football and we've had a crap season. I'm not sure we'll be able to use our financial pool for some players, but that's why when I see us being linked to Club Bruges players, Anderlecht players, Genoa players, I think right, that's where we have a financial advantage over other clubs. But I think maybe the appeal of West Ham has declined quite rapidly in the last 12 months or so, and I think we're witnessing that. And I think that's why when I seen the Bisek one, I've just dismissed it because I don't believe it. I don't believe he'd come to West Ham, but I also don't believe we're going to spend over £40 million on a centre-back. I'm not even sure we'll spend over £40 million on one player this summer. As I've maintained, I don't believe all this nonsense that we've got zero money to spend. I don't believe it. I fully expect us to be spending money, and it might not be 100 million, but I fully expect us at the end of the summer to have a net spend of 50, 60 million or something like that. And if we don't, then we've got bigger problems at West Ham. And one of those problems I would suggest we've got is not knowing how to manipulate the PSR windows. I'm watching us at the minute with this PSR deadline thinking, well, what are we going to do And I think the answer is nothing. And that's concerning, because that means either we don't need to do anything or we can't do anything, which the same people are claiming we bid for Duran in January and we could back then because of the way the accounting period works. We're still in that same period, but yet we're not making any bids. So, yes, I know. 8-letter word, beginning with B. I agree. Anyway, right, that's it. I'm off. If you've enjoyed this Transfer Rumour show with my compliment slip, please do drop a like on it by clicking the thumbs up. If you've heard of any of those players, get involved. Give me your thoughts in the comment section below. Don't be shy. Subscribe if you're new to Hammers Chat. And last thing I want to say, I hope we sign Fender up.